What's going on, YouTube peeps and barbecue freaks? Thank you guys for stopping by. Today, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I have been asked multiple times about the Smokenator that I use, particularly how much fuel do I add to it, if I have to re-add fuel throughout long cooks, and if so, how much fuel do I add each time. So I'm going to make a video about that. Since I'm firing up the Weber, I am going to smoke a rack of St. Louis ribs. I actually have a new rub here that I threw together that I'm interested in trying out. So I'm going to do that on these ribs. I have the membrane removed from the ribs. I'll kind of show that as well a little bit. But some of the steps I'm going to skip on that because mainly I'm going to focus on the fuel that I add to the Smokenator and how I work that, since I've been asked that question multiple times. So let's get started. Let me show you what these ribs look like. So I have the rack here, and I'm just going to use a all-purpose rub, salt, pepper, garlic. Let me hit that, layer that first. This is a really thick rack of ribs. Nice looking rack. Before I flip it over, let's go ahead and flip that over and hit this side. Take this rub here, this is what I'm really interested in trying, and it's going to cover this whole rack here. Alright, I got the ribs rubbed down completely. I'm going to wrap this up and throw it in the fridge and let it sit for a bit, and I'll pick back up in just a bit. Alright, the ribs have been sitting in the fridge for about an hour. They look like here. Took them out. I'm going to give them one more coating of that rub. And then I'll show you how I have the Smokenator set up. Alright, so I got my Smokenator hooked up to the Weber. I have all my vents down at the bottom completely opened. Now the manual for the Smokenator says to use 60 charcoal briquettes. 48 go in the chamber, and you take 12 in the chimney starter and light those up, which I have over there going. I've got some oak wood in here. I like oak. I am not going to run with the water pan, only because I'm going to spritz these, so I'm not worried about adding moisture. So there's 48 charcoal briquettes in here, and I have 12 off to the side here that I'm lighting. I'm going to take those 12, dump them on here. Now I am going to put a thermometer on here, just kind of manage the temps so you guys get an idea of what kind of temps this will hold. And once I put the lit charcoal in here, I'm actually going to close the bottom vents to a little more than halfway closed. So let me get the rest of these 12 over here going. Well, they're already going, but let me grab them and we'll dump them in here. I forgot these 12 that are lit. I'm gonna add those right in there. Let me set this down real quick. Make sure that gets in there. All right. I am going to close this up. I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to actually add some more wood here in a minute, but I'm going to put the lid on. Bottom vents are still completely wide open. Open the top vent all the way, and I'm just going to have the thermometer here. I have the remote part inside. Once this gets up to about 220, I'm going to come back outside and turn the bottom vents, close those halfway, a little more than halfway, and then I'll add the other wood once I put the ribs on. So I'll pick back up in just a bit. Alright, so this is reading 225, 226. So let's go ahead and take this lid off really quick, and we're going to shut these vents down. If I can find the damn thing. Oh, there it is. To a little more than halfway. I hope you can make that out. Also, well, hell, maybe not with that. Pop that open. Drop my other chunk of wood in there. Take these ribs. That is a beautiful rack. So there's 60 briquettes in there, 48 unlit, 12 lit, bottom vents, a little more than halfway shut. I'm going to leave the top vents only about halfway. So halfway, bottom vents shut a little more than halfway, and we'll see where this stops at. And if we have to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments to the vents, but that's what it looks like now. And I'll start timing it now to see how long the charcoal lasts. All right, so we're about 40 minutes into the cook, and the temp is sitting at around 285, which is a little higher than I wanted to. So I'm not going to touch the bottom vents, but I am going to touch the hot. I am going to touch close the top vent just a little bit more. Make sure my lid is on there right. So I let the bottom vents where they were, which is a little bit less than half open, and the top vents, well, we can see, but they're barely cracked open. It's a little windy out here. That might be why it's getting so much air in there, but that's a little higher temperature wise than I want it. So we're going to shut this down and see what happens. All right, so we're an hour into this cook, exactly an hour, and even though shutting down that top vent, this thing only dropped about almost 10 degrees. So we've been cooking at about 270, and that's what it looks like. I am going to spray this down. This is why I didn't use the water pan, because I'm going to add my own liquid to keep it moist. And I'm actually just using pineapple juice. Get that spray down. Look at that. Looking good. Get the lid on here, and then I'll check back in about another hour. All right, so I just wanted to show something. I've been the Weber, the Smokenator, has been going for almost 2.5 hours, and it's been holding around 280. It's been fluctuating between about 283 and 288. So, you know, 285-ish, I reckon. It's been holding there for the last 2.5 hours consistently, and I have not added any more charcoal or anything to it. So, you know, 2.5 hours in with the 60 briquettes that I added, it's still holding a consistent temperature. All right, we're 3 hours into this cook, and I think it's time to wrap. Now the charcoal, what I've done is I haven't added any more, but I did just scoot the charcoal that was over on this side, and on this side I just scooted it towards the middle. The temperature did drop about 15 degrees so far, and once I wrap these, I'm probably going to add about 5 more briquettes to this just to keep it going. So started with 60, 3 hours in. I'm going to add the first round of extra fuel, which is about 5 more briquettes. All right, so I got the ribs wrapped, and I did add 6 more briquettes to that. That should catch, and 6 unlit briquettes to the Smokenator. You don't want to light them. You want to let the rest of the briquettes that are already lit light them. So total 65 briquettes so far. 3 hours in is when I added the first round of extra fuel, which was 6 briquettes. All right, so we're almost 4 hours in. These have been wrapped for almost an hour, and I don't know if you can tell there, but the charcoal that I added really hasn't, or it actually has lasted quite a while. The temperature did drop from the time that I added the new charcoal till now. For the last hour, did drop about 10-15 degrees, which is expected because there's not as many charcoals in there. So, and I only added charcoal that one time. Let's take a look at these ribs. Got a toothpick that I'm just using to check the tenderness. They're still a little tight. Just a little bit. They can use it maybe another 30 minutes. So, I'm going to close this up. Cover it up. And let them keep going. Alright, these ribs are done. It's been a total of 5 hours. And this is what the ribs look like. Look at that. Nice meaty rib. This is what they look like. We're going to cut into these and talk a little bit about how the Smokenator worked. So, let's talk about the Smokenator and the fuel that I added and all that good stuff. At the beginning of the cook, I added the 60 briquettes that the Smokenator recommends adding. I added 48 unlit and 12 lit briquettes. I only added fuel one time, and that was 3 hours into the cook. I added 6 more charcoal briquettes to the Smokenator. I did not add any more after that. Once I added those 6, the temperature did drop about 10 to 15 degrees. So I started cooking at, it was about 285. And after the 3 hours, once I added those 6 extra briquettes, it dropped down to about 270 is where it continued to cook, which is still a good temperature to cook ribs. So I went 3 hours with the ribs on the pit, unwrapped. At the 3 hour mark, I wrapped up ribs, and that's when I added the 6 briquettes. I let that go for about an hour and 15 minutes. After that, I unwrapped the ribs, put them back on the smoker, hit them with some sauce. Still didn't add any more fuel to the fire. At that point, the temperature dropped to about 255, and it held that temperature for about 45 minutes. So, those of you who have asked me about the Smokenator as far as, long cooks, having to add more fuel, that's what I did with this cook, just ribs. If I was cooking brisket, I definitely would have had to add more charcoal, and I probably, well, without question, I would have had to have added it multiple times. Since I was cooking ribs, 5 hour cook, I only had to add fuel one time. So for those of you who have asked about the Smokenator and adding fuel when and how much, I hope that helps answer some of the questions. Now the best part. Let's cut into these ribs. Alright, so here is the rib. Nice smoke ring right around there. That. Nice smoke ring, nice color. This is a big ass rib. Let's give it a try. Clean bite. The rub is really good. That the rub that I was trying out. Damn good rub. That perfect bite. That's a really good rib. I think what I need to, part of the reason for doing this was I have a big cook-off coming up at the beginning of October, so I'm trying out a different rib recipe, and I think one thing I need to do is add just a little more heat. Down here in Texas, they love the heat, so there's definitely some. You get a little bit of heat from the black pepper and white pepper, but it needs something a little different, and I know what to add just for that. Other than that, the rib was great. So I cooked these for 3 hours, unwrapped. I did spritz them at the hour mark and the hour and a half mark with pineapple juice. At the 2 hour mark, I hit them with some parquet butter and let that kind of add some moisture and some flavor to the ribs. I didn't do anything after that. At the 3 hour mark, I wrapped them. I added a few things to the wrap. When I wrapped them, hour and 15 minutes, I took them out of the wrap, put them back on the pit, hit them with some sauce, which is a commercial sauce that I bought at the store that I kind of doctored up, and it worked great. Let that go for about 45 minutes, and this is what I got. So, it's not bad. It could be better. I'm going to work on making it better. But it's pretty good. Anyway, that's my video. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching. Again, those of you who have had questions about the Smokenator and fuel, when, how much did I have to add, I hope this helped answer those questions. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I truly, truly appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. And more importantly, if you aren't a subscriber, I would truly, truly appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. Until next time, you guys take care. Cheers.